All right, well, I refigured some stuff and I have to cut some fixed shelves for the unit. So let me get those cut up. Alright, that is all the pieces to this cabinet except for the back, and I won't cut the back until I have the cabinet together. The next step is to rabbet or dado the pieces that need to be dadoed. So I have to set up the stacked dado set. And the thing that I have to do is figure out exactly how thick this material is. They say that it's 3/4, but birch plywood can run anywhere from 0.705 up to 0.765. So you got a lot of variance, and if you have a lot of cabinets to build, those 20, 30, 40 thousandths of an inch add up real quick until it's a ½ inch big for the cabinet run. So let me go get my micrometer and measure this stuff. What I'll do is I'll check it in a couple of different spots. Now normally the melamine is a lot closer to dimension than plywood is. Looks like this material here is measuring 0.762, 0.756, and that's real good. That's real close. You know, in woodworking, some people just get too anal about how close they're going to have their tolerances. And really, for woodworking, if you're working a 1/64 of an inch, that's about as close as you can get. Because you'll find overnight materials change by a 32nd of an inch if it's humid or too dry. .763, 765, 760. So when I set up, I'm going to figure that the material is 3/4 of an inch. One of the things I did want to talk about was cutting melamine. Melamine, the surface of melamine is very brittle. And if you're not using a proper saw blade, or if your table saw is out of alignment, then you're going to have nothing but tear out. You're going to have nothing but problems with it. This is a Powermatic table saw, model 66. It's about 15, 18 years old. And periodically I'll check it to make sure that it's in alignment. But generally, once you set it, it's set for life, unless it really gets a lot of abuse. If you're the only person using your table saw you can set it once and that's probably good. The thing that you set, when I say set the table saw, is you're setting the saw blade parallel to the fence and to the rabbet in the top for the crosscut. And I know that my saw is set at about 1 or 2 thousandths out of parallel, so that the back of the saw blade is about 1 thousandths out of alignment with the fence. And what that does is that'll keep that blade from binding or pinching the wood. And it gives you a much nicer saw cut if you're only concerned with the saw cut between the blade and the fence. Of course, the other side of your waist will have a little bit more tear out on it, but you know, I double cut everything, so I'm only concerned with the distance between the blade and the fence. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set up the dado blade. So this is a Freud dado set. It's an 8-inch blade, 8-inch chippers, I'm just assuming that most everyone's familiar with the blades, so I won't go into a lot of discussion about that. The blade that I was using to cut the melamine is a Forest blade. It's their Woodworker 2. And boy, I have had nothing but good luck using that blade for all sorts of cutting, whether it's making cabinets or trim. Anytime that you want a really nice cut, you should pull out your best blade. My general purpose blade is a 50-tooth alternate top bevel, and I believe it's a Freud blade, although I do have another blade. I think it's an American Eagle blade. So these dado blades have 2 end blades, and they're very sharp. They have very severe pitch on them, so that it gives you a very clean cut. There is a right and there is a left. Okay, so we want a hair over 3/4 of an inch. My biggest dimension was 765, so I will put in an 1/8 inch for the end blade, an 1/8 inch chipper. I'll put in a 1/4 inch chipper, another 1/8 inch, and then I've got a pack of shims here, and it looks like I need a navy and a purple. That'll give me 15 thousandths, and I could use one black, which is 20 thousandths, so I think I'll do that. Nah, Yeah, I'll use the 2. Because it was reading under that 15 thousandths. So a blue and a purple. There we go. And it doesn't really matter where you put these in at. Let me take one of these chippers off. There's my blue. Here's my purple. Now, when you use these shims in here, sometimes they have a tendency to fall down in the threads of the shaft, and you got to tighten them up a little bit more than what you normally do if you're not using the spacers. I also like to try to line the 2 outside blades up. You can't use the arbor nut. You got to make sure that your carbide isn't touching or overlapped any of the steel parts. If it does, it doesn't hurt anything, but you might chip your carbide, or you might get a wobble in the blade because it's not flat. Alright. That looks pretty good. Now, you know, you don't have to tighten these blades up real tight. You just snug them up. Because of the way the thread and nut is, it'll tighten itself up. And if it's too loose, you'll know it because the blade will stop cutting. But if you've ever had a nut that's on there too tight, that's a real problem. Alright, so we've got our dado blade in. We got it set for 0.765, 15 thousandths heavier than a normal 3/4 inch. So I guess the first thing I like to do is run a sample cut and check the dado against the pieces I have. If I have to, I'll go back and pull out that 1/5,000th shim if it's too sloppy. into the shelves. So let me set that aside. The center partition needs to be rabbeted in the middle on both sides. So let's figure that out. It's 29, so that would be 14.5 to the center, 14 3/8. So 14 1/8 to 14 7/8. Let's see, the bottom gets it along the back. Set that aside. And the center partition. 42 3/4, 21 3/8. 21 3/8, so that's 21 to 21 3/4. 21 to 21 3/4. And the two sides, they get a rabbet along the top and the bottom to receive the bottom and the top struts. Check it for square, line things up, see how everything feels. Feels out just a hair, I think. Check it with the square. Oh yeah. Oh, that's real good. That is real good. Looks like in 2 foot, 22.5 inches, actually, I am out maybe 1/1000th of an inch, 2/1000ths. Barely the thickness of a hair. That could just be a fuzzball in there somewhere. Perfect. I can live with that. Alright, so I have the choice of setting up a sacrificial fence, or I could just set the fence up. I'm going to use a sacrificial fence. I got one here somewhere. The thing is, you can use anything as long as it's straight, relatively straight. Yeah, I got a piece of cedar from a job I was working on. That should work just fine. Be nice if it was a little longer. Let me set the fence And the last thing we have to do is rabbet the side partitions to match our center partition. So now we have to reset the saw to create a rabbet for the back, and that rabbet will be 3/8 by 1/4. The backing material is a 1/4 inch thick, and I like to make the rabbet 3/8 of an inch so that it overlaps the 1/4 inch rabbets for the partitions and sides. That's all of that. Now I have to change it back over to the saw blade and cut up some more stock for the stretchers and screw rails. And they will have to be rabbeted a little bit, but I think I can just do that with the table saw blade. And I'm not going to put the forest blade back in because I'm going to start cutting plywood. And this blade here will work just fine with the plywood.